Hello, world, and welcome to another exciting episode of Gadgetcast. I am Gregory McFadden, joined by the man who's probably touched more Amazon products this past week than Jeff Bezos himself, Travis MCP.
That's very true. That's actually a good point. You're probably right about that.
You've been. I've been watching your channel. So many Amazon reviews. It's like, oh my god.
Well, today finally put an iPhone review, or not even a review, but kind of my first week up. But there's 2 weeks late, which is kind of funny.
It's the week update, but you've been holding it. It's been late, and
yeah, most of my thoughts are the same. Like, I still love the battery life. I'm still gobsmacked by. I don't understand the wizardry of the battery life on this thing. And I'm really liking it a lot, and I'm excited. All the comments today, a lot of the comments are people like, "Oh, all you gotta do is get some either AirPods or an Apple Watch, and you're in." I'm like, well, an Apple Watch might be on its way, so I'm kind of working on that. And from the AirPod standpoint, good. One of my favorite YouTubers, and really just a nice guy to me, Flossie Carter, just did a review today of AirPods and clone AirPods. $99 clone AirPod Pros that he say are exactly the same from volume to everything. So I've ordered them, and I will be reviewing them.
Really?
Like the box, like he unboxed it. He showed it side by side to compare it to a real one. He listened to them, and he said everything's the same, and they're $90. So I've ordered them, and we shall see what happens.
Now, do they pair the same way?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, everything is the same. Like the booklets inside on the, like, what he showed was incredible, and what he said he heard is amazing, which is why I've ordered them. And I need to know, can $90 AirPod Pros really be as good? Now, first of all, I believe in Flossie. Like, if he says it, it's true. He has no reason to lie about this, but I need to hear for myself. So I've always been kind of like, I kind of want the Pros, but I want to pay $250. I'll pay $100. And he says they have a knockoff, and he actually did a review of those real quick too, of the regular AirPods for $60 that are 1-to-1. Everything's the same. I'm like, oof.
It's definitely some
well,
sabotage.
see, here's the thing. I don't have the Pros. You do. You should be ordering these clones and then doing a video about that.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm a little wary if they pair exactly the same, because
They do. He showed it. He literally showed it happening.
I think what that means is, like, intellectual property is kind of being stolen. It's China.
They fell off a truck. Let's be honest.
Yeah. But
well, actually, that's actually not true. So here's the thing. I bought some ones from Amazon a couple weeks back. They're kind of like clone-ish kind of AirPods, but they're obviously not like AirPod. Like, they look like kind of AirPods, but they're not like trying to be 1-to-1.
Right.
And they paired exactly the same to the iPhone. Like, you open them up and it comes up and it even says AirPods. So the actual, like, software to fool it apparently isn't that difficult to do.
That's very
apparently it's a thing.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
So maybe it's not exactly like someone stealing chips. Maybe it's just the software that, again, Apple probably doesn't approve of, but because they're in China, what are they going to do? You know, they really,
as soon as you manufacture in China, it's a wrap. Everything you make over there is going to be tripled out the week after. I'm telling you, it's crazy.
Well, I'll definitely stay tuned to your review, because I'd be very interested to hear how those sound.
Well, I'm excited.
That's definitely cool. Yeah. Speaking of Flossie Carter, that's like there's all like these like amazing people on like YouTube that do like just tech content that like I keep discovering. Like, you think you would know like everyone by now, because you're like, how many people could be out there? But even someone as big as Flossie was someone that I wasn't even like in my, like, I never really even knew about him until like I saw him on like Viper's live stream. And ever since then, I love his videos. His videos are so funny.
I did a collab with him on my iPhone 6S video.
I saw that one. Yeah.
But here's what's interesting. So speaking of that, to that point, Brandon Butch is a guy I met recently. He followed me on Twitter. I didn't really know anything about him. Then I met him at Vid Summit, and he's got like 300 some odd thousand subscribers, and he does a ton of Apple content. But I didn't know where he was. It's like the nook and cranny of YouTube, where you just don't know where, you know, these rather large creators are. You just had no idea.
Yeah, BMAX, a similar one who I just covered like a couple months ago, and like it's like, oh wow,
where'd you come from?
So yeah, I mean, I'm sure people are the same way about us. They're like, oh
yeah, who are these guys?
Yeah, so that's awesome.
We got the #1 podcast. That's who we are. Stop messing around with us.
Yeah, we got the #1 show. #1. 5 stars. Still 5 stars.
Still 5 stars, baby.
5 stars. Keep it that way. If you're listening, we got like someone, I don't have the name in front of me. I shout him out on Twitter, but he actually left us a review and said that he was a Spotify listener. So this Spotify listener was like, you know what? I'm going to go into the Apple Podcast app.
Amazing.
I'm actually going to rate these guys because their podcast is so good. So, hey, if you're on those other platforms and you own an iPhone or an iPad or even on your Mac now, they have the podcast client. If you own any of those devices, even if you don't listen on Apple Podcasts, if you really like the show and want to help us out, go to that Apple Podcast app, scroll down, got to scroll down. You'll see the star rating system. Leave us a rating. That would be awesome.
Amazing.
I really appreciate that.
That's so cool.
So we got some news here.
Yes.
New MacBook Pros.
So I hear you're broke now. Can we talk about that?
I may have ordered 2 of them.
Can we talk about this for a second? So first of all, let's talk about what the thing is for people who don't know, the 3 people who don't know. Let's talk about the specs and let's talk about how the hell you ended up with 2, because I am completely flabbergasted that you ordered 2. We need to talk about this.
Okay, so you want me to go over the specs first before I go?
Let's do this.
So this is a 16-inch MacBook Pro. So it's replacing the 15-inch version. They're not going to sell that anymore. And they're coming in at the same price point, which is surprising. I actually thought this was going to be more money when we first heard about it. There was rumors of starting prices as high as $3,000, but same configurations, $2,399. Not a cheap laptop by any means, but it is the same price. Now, Apple's giving you more here. So, of course, you're getting a bigger display. In terms of just regular specs, you have things like, so you'll like this, Travis. On the older version, they gave you 256 gigabytes as standard. This time, they're bumping that up to 512 gigabytes, something that you thought they should have done with the iPhones, giving more storage. So they're doing that on the Mac lineup now, more storage for the same amount of money. That's great. The same processors in these as last year's 15-inch, so still the same 9th generation Intel processor, so you're not really getting any speed boost there. They do have better AMD graphics in them, the 5300 series, 5500 series, which seem to be noticeably improved. Apple's claiming you might get up to 80% more if you're going for the higher end graphics, so that's interesting. More RAM in these, so now you can configure them up to 64 gigabytes of RAM. And basically, in terms just of specs, it looks like not like anything too crazy. But what's better about these laptops is they actually made some design changes that you might not notice at first. Number one, they made it thicker. Now, it doesn't look too much thicker. It's not like a giant gaming laptop like you get from Alienware. But, one of the complaints about Apple traditionally is they're always looking to make things thinner and lighter. We've seen them kind of go away from that a little bit on the recent iPhones, which they made thicker to put in a bigger battery. And now we're seeing that on this 16-inch MacBook Pro, where it's slightly thicker, slightly heavier too. The old one was 4 pounds. The new one's 4.3 pounds. So with that increased thickness, they're giving better thermal management. If you know the whole controversy about previous MacBook Pros was that they thermal throttled a lot. So maybe these ones won't thermal throttle. Obviously, I got to get it to review before I can really say if that's going to give you a performance increase with those same chips inside of it. And they're also doing other things like giving you a bigger battery. So they're saying you'll get about 1 more hour of use. Now they're actually giving you the max size battery you can get in a laptop. This is the biggest size they can give you, and it can still legally go on an airplane. So I actually don't think they could increase the capacity of the battery anymore, which is kind of interesting.
That's interesting.
Yeah. But another big thing I guess I should mention, they got rid of the butterfly keyboard, which they've had on the 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019. They even released a 15-inch MacBook Pro in 2019. Those all had the butterfly keyboard. This one's getting rid of that, going to a Magic keyboard design, which is very similar to the keyboard you'd find on the iMac. And just that alone is probably a big enough upgrade for most people who were concerned about the reliability of the butterfly keyboards or just didn't like the way that they felt. And, basically in a nutshell, that is the 16-inch MacBook Pro. Maybe not the biggest upgrade on paper in terms of, last year's, or I guess this year's 15-inch and this one, but it looks like they are listening to customers and righting a lot of wrongs. Now, actually, there is a couple new features which I didn't mention, which I should, because they seem pretty important. I keep forgetting about them because I just didn't expect them. So number one, new speakers. Now, I need to listen to these, but I've heard from Renee Ritchie. I've heard from like Jonathan Morrison. I've watched their, videos on this. Apparently, these speakers are like mind-blowingly good. Like they're like Renee Ritchie said, like HomePod level of performance coming out of a laptop, and like it blows like any other laptop like out of the water. Like crazy sound coming out of these, which I'm excited for. Like if that's true, like you could just put this in like a room, play music from it, and it sounds like really, really good. That's awesome. Another thing, which is totally unexpected, is that it has what Apple is claiming to be studio quality microphones.
Yeah, I saw that.
Did you watch the Jonathan Morrison video on this?
I did.
He said he recorded his part with that 16-inch MacBook Pro.
Yeah.
And I'm like listening to it and I'm like, this sounds better than my shotgun microphone in my videos. How are you recording this on the inbuilt laptop microphones, which any other like laptop microphone traditionally is like awful. Like you would never want to record anything on it. And I don't know why these are shipping with, who knows? I need to get my hands on it, obviously, to see if they are really that good. But I'm going to trust Jonathan Morrison because he usually does pretty good work. And
I was really impressed by the audio quality I heard from parts of Renee's video and Jonathan's video. The one thing I did notice across both of those was that there was a low-level hum across both of them equally, which at first I thought maybe it's the way that Renee was recording his, and then I heard a very similar hum in Jonathan's. But I was listening on a 2.1 on my computer, so a subwoofer and two speakers, and I just heard this hum, and it was kind of a bassy hum. So I'm unsure if that's coming from the Mac itself, if there's something going on in the room that it was actually recording. But if you minus that out, which by the way, you could probably just take it into software and remove that. If you remove that, the quality is amazing. Like, what is going on? And here's what I do like about Apple. I don't want to be an Apple shiner. Apple shiner.
That's a new term. I like that one.
Yes. But what I'm noticing from Apple, and maybe they've been doing this for a longer time than I'm going to give them credit for, they've done a great job at kind of where everyone else is going right, going left, and like improving on things that we don't even realize we need improved until they improve it. And then it's like, holy crap, that's improved. As a matter of fact, I watched a little bit of, and I don't tend to watch very much TV or video or something like that on my phone, but I did want to watch a little bit on my iPhone. Since I had just gotten it, I hadn't really done a lot of that, and I noticed that Disney Plus didn't seem to do HDR on the phone, which was kind of disappointing. So I had to go to something that I had I had on iTunes or whatever that did have HDR, and then I immediately noticed that the sound on the phone was great, just like they had mentioned in the presser when they first announced these 11 and 11 Pros, that it was going to be kind of a spatial thing, and it totally does. It wasn't something I was looking for, so I wasn't trying to like confirmation bias anything, but I just noticed it. I'm like, well, what is that? And then I go, oh yeah, they had mentioned that the Dolby Atmos kind of goes. So if they've done that again, like everyone is going to be talking about the keyboard and everything, like they've gone left while everyone else is looking right, it's pretty ingenious. And to be correcting on things that will make a difference, but no one's really paying attention to, is really, really very smart.
Yeah. Like you mentioned, like what laptop manufacturer is sitting there going, you know what we need to improve? The microphones on our laptops.
None.
Yeah, and it's such a strange thing. And it's something that like now that I'm doing this podcast and I kind of can see like the use cases for it. There's been times where I've actually even with YouTube videos where I had to redo like an audio part, especially like sometimes for like sponsorships, they might want you to say like something else. But you don't have like your equipment on you. You might have your laptop and, maybe you're not going to use it for like everything, But if you could use it in those scenarios where, hey, I forgot my microphone for podcasting if I'm on the road, or I, needed to put in this audio part for something that I forgot to say, some very important spec that, oh man, I wish I put that in there and I don't have time to go home. I'll have to delay this video. If you have that equipment on you, that can be very, very powerful, even if it's not technically the best. If it's good enough to where no one really notices, then that works. And that's kind of the vibe I'm getting with this 16-inch MacBook Pro, is that, this is a feature that you can make fun of all you want. Like who's studio level microphones, who's going to use this to record on anything? But it's a feature that I actually, as a creator, go, yeah, I could there's definitely been a few situations where I wish I had a better quality microphone and I just didn't think to pack one. Yeah. So I'm excited for that. I think that when I get one of these laptops, which I ordered 2 of, I think I should record an episode of Gadgetcast on it. I actually tweeted that out earlier to see if people were interested. A lot of yeses, so I think I have to do it. Yeah,
I mean, I'm interested
on this audio equipment, Travis, but
I'm curious.
Throw it out for one episode and see how it sounds. And you know what? I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to record on both. So I have the MacBook Pro by me, and I'll just have the regular setup, and maybe I'll switch in between on the podcast to show you the difference.
Look at you being fancy.
Yeah.
So, okay, can we get into this? Why did you order 2? I don't you have not even kind of talked about this. What is going on with you?
Okay. So I am a very important tech reviewer.
All right, here we go.
I am Greg's Gadgets. I don't know if you know that.
I've heard this.
Yeah. I wanted to review this as soon as possible. But I also want this laptop for myself.
Okay.
And if I wanted to spec it out the way that I want it to replace my laptop, I need to, do some of the configuration. So for my model, I got the 1 terabyte of storage. I got 32 gigabytes of RAM. I got the highest end graphics card because it was only $100 more. And by putting that into it, well, Apple then needs to build it, and then they need to ship it out. So it's not going to come until like the end of November.
Oh, I see.
So I wanted to get one to review as soon as they're saying it might ship this Friday. So I ordered the, just like a base spec model of one of them, and then I ordered the one I want. So I have 2 on the way.
It almost would have been cheaper for you just to fly to Jonathan Morrison's place and play around with his, and then come back home.
That's true.
And not only that, you would have gotten to hang with Jonathan again and do some cool stuff.
I'm saving that card. I didn't want to mention it. I'm actually saving that. There's no way I'm going to be able to afford that Mac Pro and that Pro display. So I've been saving that card. I might fool, and I might see, if he still likes me, maybe he hates me, but I'm gonna see maybe when that comes out in December, be like, hey, John, I would love to check out that Mac Pro.
Love it.
I would love it.
Smartest man in podcasting, Greg from Greg's Gadgets.
We'll see that.
But let me understand this. This is the Pro, right? This is the MacBook Pro. It's not just a MacBook Pro. Okay. So who really should be looking at this, and who should not be looking at this? Because for me, it starts at what? $2,200?
2,400 technically.
Woo. All right. So it starts at 2,400. So you're already disqualifying a bunch of people. So you are kind of looking at that kind of more professional level, someone who either wants a really high-end MacBook or is a professional and makes money with their laptop. But if you're making money with your laptop, is the base version good enough? And I'm asking because I don't know. I'm legitimately asking.
I would legitimately say yes. I actually mentioned this in my video. I don't normally recommend base versions of Apple's laptops. I normally always have to go in with the caveat. Hey, this is a nice starting price, but you're only getting like 128 gigabyte hard drive here. If you're planning on storing any sort of media files, if you're doing photo editing, video editing, you're going to fill up that drive so quickly. You got to spend the extra $200 to upgrade to at least 256, but you should probably be getting 512 gigabytes. Well, now on this one, $2,399, you're getting a 6-core processor, 16 gigabytes of RAM, a 512, solid state hard drive. And again, you can configure that like crazy. You can get 8 terabytes of storage if you want. But again, I think that's a decent base level machine. Like I could run my entire channel off that machine. In in terms of processor speed, I think it's fine. In terms of graphics, it seems fine. I've actually reviewed the entry-level 13-inch that they recently released. And even that, I could probably run like my entire channel on it. I wouldn't maybe want to because I'd want more speed and stuff like that. But if I really had to, I've edited plenty of videos on that machine, and I really like it. And it's actually a really decent machine for the money, but that's another machine where it comes with a 128 gigabyte drive, and it's like, don't buy that model. At least, bump it up to the next configuration, because on a Mac, you're going to fill that up super quickly. So yes, I think the base model makes sense for a lot of people, and there's plenty of room to spec this thing up.
How much is the entry level of the other one you did, the smaller one, 13-inch?
So that would be 1,299, so 1,300.
It's actually reasonable for a decent laptop.
Yeah, again though, that's with the 128 gigabyte drive. I would and almost anyone upgrade that to 256, and that's kind of low. Sometimes.
Yeah, even that, because you gotta remember, like, phones are a little bit different than like PCs. Like, you need a lot of storage space on a PC, laptop, whatever, versus a phone, which you would still like to have at least a lot, but you don't need. I mean, you don't quote need like 500 gigabytes, but
the advantage with like laptops is that you can hang off like external drives like pretty easily, which is actually what I do for like editing. My iMac only has 512 gigabyte hard drive in it, which isn't a lot for me. Like if I was doing all my video editing on that, it'd be filled up in no time. But I have like a 2 terabyte external drive that I just hang off it, and it's a desktop, so it doesn't go anywhere, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But on a laptop, you kind of want more storage. You don't want to be hanging drives off it all the time.
100%. Yeah, 100%. So what do you think this thing, like, do you think it's going to sell a lot? Like, I don't know what the pros tend to sell number wise, but is this going to be a boon for them in some way? And I know a lot of people are waiting for the 16-inch. Is the size of the screen kind of the real interesting thing about this, or is it just that there's a new Mac Pro and everyone's interested in that part?
I think the screen doesn't matter really. Like, it's a little bit bigger, which is exciting, I guess. I think where this becomes exciting is because as a Mac person, being in the Mac community, the laptops since 2016 have been very, very controversial. They have had issues that added up together are just like, these are probably like the most hated Apple laptops like ever. Maybe that's not true, but they are definitely like, people complain a lot. And rightfully so. If you get a broken keyboard, like, who wants that? Like,
right.
Yeah, that's going to ruin like your production schedule. These are for pros. Like, you can't be going in like replacing it. Even if it's a free replacement, that ruins your production. Yep. So this machine seems to fix a lot of the wrongs. New keyboard, supposedly better thermal management. Like I said, a better machine overall for the same amount of price. So, the traditional Apple move is to introduce a new model and go, it's, $300 more expensive now. Now, who knows how much this costs to make and all that stuff. But it really does seem like, hey, we messed up. Here is a better machine for the same amount of money. And it basically fixes most of the problems people had with the older ones. Now, in terms of sales, I don't know. I know this is probably a big win for the pro community, for people who are developers. There are a lot of people interested in this machine who are in our circle. Does that translate to mass consumer level? I wouldn't think so, just based on the price and just based on the fact that, laptops really aren't like a hot seller for consumers now. Most people just use a phone and maybe a tablet, but buying a $2,400 laptop, no matter how great it is, probably isn't for them. So again, I think this is definitely for our community, and it will probably sell well. I think this will sell even better once all these improvements make its way down to the rest of the lineup. So that 13-inch MacBook Pro and then that MacBook Air, once the new keyboard and whatever improvements, if they make the screen to 14 inches, I guess, on those, I assume those would be hot sellers. Yeah. But, for this, again, it's more for the creator community, video editors, photo editors, developers. I guess if you want to game on a Mac too, this is the model you would get.
Well,
not that I would recommend that, but
what are you doing with your life?
yeah, some people want to play some games on a Mac. I understand that.
Well, at the end of the day, this has been a really interesting year for Apple. I think what interests me the most is we are in the middle of November and they're still dropping products. You would think by this point they would have already been done because you want people to be ready for Black Friday. Like they're a week from Black Friday dropping products. Most product lines have been settled in and are starting to get their kind of pricing structure ready for the big launch of the holiday season, and Apple's just kicking stuff out. Now, I believe this is probably due to some weird delays on different things. Having said that, we're deep into 2019, almost early 2020. And I think Apple has done a lot of things this year that have kind of surprised people. They, for the first time in a long time, have a real contender for phone of the year. And if you set aside your hate for Apple, if you are an Apple hater, you have to give them props on the iPhone 11 from a price perspective and kind of what you get out of it. And then the 11 Pro for kind of just an amazing phone that it is, while it is way too expensive. And then you look at the iPad Pros. Well, they actually didn't release the iPad Pro this year, but the iPads they did release this year at a really good price, iPad Air, and the inexpensive version. So now you've got, for Black Friday, I think you said there's a $250 version.
Yeah, Black Friday? on Black Friday.
That's insane.
Yeah,
that is a pickup instantly. So you have a iPad at almost every price range now. You have a laptop at almost every price range, reasonably. You have iPhones at every price range. I mean, because if you go down to like the iPhone 8, which is still a very competent phone.
And don't forget the rumors are a $400 like recent upgraded spec iPhone SE coming out like very early next year.
Yeah, if that happens, Apple's really positioning itself into a really interesting player in like everything. They're not cheapening themselves yet. Like they're not going, well, we're just gonna go down and fight in the mud pits of budget Android phones, but they are making it a little bit more approachable for other people on all platforms. So of course the Apple Watches, now the Apple Watch is at a price where you might dip your toe in, $200 for the Series 3. And that means on sale, you might catch it for 150 somewhere. So if you've seen a lot of them around, you're just curious, you might pick one up. So they're doing some very interesting things and kind of slowly but surely kind of seeping out. And man, they're really positioned for a really strong 2020. Coming into 2019, I wasn't so sure. But man, they kind of amazed me in 2019, not going to lie.
Yeah, I think the only product that I can really say that really needs like a complete revamp at this point is probably the HomePod. If they want to continue that strategy of be in this home speaker market, which I think they do want. I think that what we need from them is a cheaper one that has more features for sure.
Yeah.
But that would be like the only product where I'm like, okay, what's the strategy here? It's always interesting with Apple because they always get a lot of hate, and rightfully so for the past couple years. But it looks like you said, like in 2019, there were a lot of things they fixed. They have surprisingly in some of these categories, especially if that iPhone SE is coming out at $400. Like you said, you can get the iPhone 8 for $450 now. But if they're actually going to make like a modern processor spec phone for $400, you have the iPad for $329. You have the MacBook Air. They lowered the price of that to, almost $1,000. It seems like they are I think what Apple kind of lost for a little bit there was they didn't have a product for like every person.
Right.
Especially that year when the iPhone 10 came out. Like I know the iPhone 8 came along with it. But most people wanted the 10. Yeah. And people, Apple is traditionally a company that always gets a lot of flack for being expensive. But in recent years, a $200 Apple Watch, a $329 iPad, that's not crazy. That's not unobtainable like these laptops might be.
Yeah.
But again, Apple reintroducing the MacBook Air and putting that at a lower price. It seems like they want to be at more price points. It seems like they want to maybe not race to the bottom and make $100 phone or $100 tablet, but it looks like they want to be in more markets rather than just the super high end.
Yes, that I agree with. And it's a strategy that makes sense moving forward, because high-end smartphones are not really selling as many as they used to. So to figure out a way to that middle range is going to be the smart move. Samsung already is established there. Some of their better selling phones are in the A series. So it totally makes sense to bring back the SE series and do an SE2. We'll see if that's really the case. I mean, all signs point to yes. And if that's the case, then hats off to them. Of course, don't forget about Apple TV, which launched this year. Apple Music's still going strong. Apple TV, as I mentioned a couple episodes ago, in case you missed it, is an instant win, because everyone who bought a product and will get one for this holiday season gets a year worth of Apple TV, and that in of itself just makes the amount of subscribers to that service really high. So we talked about that in depth a couple of episodes ago. If you want to check that out, you should definitely check that out. But I think they've done a great job this year. Definitely, I don't know what the original plan coming into 2019 was, but whatever it was, they executed well. And I would give them a very high passing grade for 2019 for sure.
Yeah. I think there's an alternate history out there where the iPhone XS sold more than the XR and the strategy didn't change or something like that. Like when the iPhone 10 came out, I really felt like, okay, this is the default iPhone going forward. It's going to be $1,000 phone. And then when the XR came out, it was kind of, people, thought, oh, this is the budget iPhone model. But it turned out that, hey, this is basically the same thing as the Pro minus like an OLED display and a couple other features that really aren't that important. And because the XR was so strong in sales, I would think, and I don't know, who knows what these company roadmaps look out like years ahead, but I would think that when it came time to name and position the iPhone 11 and the iPhone 11 Pro, that was the thinking. Maybe there's a timeline where the iPhone 11 Pro is just the iPhone 11, and then the iPhone XR successor is the iPhone 11R. But it looks like Apple's like, no, the XR is the default iPhone. That's the 11. And that just by naming it the 11 was like such an important marketing move. Like it's so clear now. Yep. Oh, what iPhone do I want? Do I want the 11 or the Pro? Even if you don't agree with the Pro name, at least it's clear. It's like, okay, do I want the normal one or do I want the high end one? And
100%
consumers can understand.
Totally agree with that. And for anyone out there watching on YouTube, thank you for watching on YouTube, but you can also check out the audio version of this. If you go to the links in the description below, you'll get the high quality audio version of this, even better than what you're hearing now, the soothing tones of myself and Greg.
So smooth.
And you'll also see the links there for our YouTube channels and all of our social medias. And also a link to the Anchor website, which will give you an opportunity, if you want, to leave us a voicemail. Ladies and gentlemen, you can leave us a voicemail and we'll play it on the show and talk about things. Have we checked our email? I feel like we never check our email. Our email's down in the show notes.
I have the email on my phone, so I do check.
Yes. So show notes, well, for those just listening to audio, we'll have all those same links, as well as to leave us a voicemail if you want to, or email.
Travis, I'm gonna issue a challenge.
I'm
gonna issue a challenge to our devoted listeners. I know there's a lot of you out there.
Yes.
You guys tweet at us. You guys have been following like our commands, which is kind of funny. We're getting a lot of hashtags like toilet cast.
I love it, man.
So good it'll get you fired. Like people are listening. They're listening to the end of the show, obviously, to get like these hashtags.
Yeah, love it.
Hey, I love the fan feedback. You guys are doing great, leaving reviews, all that stuff. Like we are so happy with how this show is going. But I gotta say, you're slacking on the voicemails. I thought we'd have
that's right
by now. I know. I guess people are shy. Like I understand. Hey, if you're listening, if you made it to the end of this episode, if you're brave enough, leave us a voicemail. It can literally be on anything. Doesn't even have to be tech related. Yep. You want to talk about your life, go ahead. You want
There's like a 1 minute thing though, because remember your friend got cut off. So let's
leave it to a minute. You might not want to go on a rant. We'll play it up to the minute. If you get cut off, you can't blame us. But honestly, if you any questions for me or Travis, or if you want to talk about anything tech, or you want us to, even if you want us to discuss a topic you don't think we'd normally discuss, that's not in our view, leave us a voicemail. It's guaranteed to be placed on the show.
Yes,
guaranteed.
100%. If that's the type of clout you're looking for.
We'll give you a shout out. We'll give you so much recognition. Do you know
We
how many
will.
people listen to this podcast?
We'll love on you.
Do you know how many people listen to this podcast? You
A
don't.
lot.
You don't, because
You don't.
there's no.
Because it's not like YouTube where you can look.
Could be
Too
a million downloads a show. You would never know.
Easily is. We're past that.
2.5
million. All you got to do is add our subscriber bases together, multiply them by 2, divide them by 27, and then add 3, and that's how many it is.
Yeah, if you think our YouTube channels are good, they you know, in a podcast you don't have to stare at our faces, so it's even better.
Oof, unless you're on YouTube. But there's been another episode with Gadgetcast, baby. We have so much fun when we do this. I love it, Greg. This is like my favorite thing, my favorite time. That of all the creation I do during the week, the podcast is definitely one of my favorites. Easily. All right, everyone. We will see you again next week. Peace and love to everyone out there. This is Gadgetcast. This is Travis. He is Greg. We'll see you later.
Hey.